Welcome back to Mondays with Mom, the podcast where my mom, Leah,
Hi.
and I, Jo, dive into her stories, experiences, and the lessons she's hoping I finally take to heart. My mom has always dreamed of turning her life into a book or a movie, and this podcast is our way of making that dream come true, one episode at a time. Right, Mom?
Right, Joey, and thanks for that.
Welcome back, Mom.
Thank you. It's good to be back. So, guys, I was away for 4 or 5 days. I went to the Peloponnese, which is a region in Greece, and went to go visit my stepdaughter Aliki, who works there. She's in one of these very, very fancy 5-star hotels, and she runs the kids club.
Shout out to Aliki.
Shout out to Aliki. And the setting there is really, really beautiful. They've got some awesome lagoons and little villages with absolutely fantastic food. And it was really, really good to see Aliki. And for a change, I would say my holiday went smoothly, but it's never 100% completely smoothly. There's always something. And this little something that happened on this holiday reminded me of something that had happened on another holiday that might be worth talking about.
I'm very intrigued.
So we had booked ourselves at this little boutique hotel, I guess you can call it, or you can call it these cute little rooms that were attached to an art gallery.
Ooh.
So everything in the little room was a little bit otherwise, something that would match well with an art gallery. So you would go up approximately 20 stairs, and then you would get to the room, which had a little sitting area, like a little lounge area with a TV and a very well-designed but hidden little kitchen. It was all in a cupboard. So you had a fridge and a coffee machine and a couple of knives and forks and plates to eat. And then there was a little bathroom down there. Then you would have to go up another 20 steps and you would get to the bed.
Sounds cute.
It was very cute. And it had this little door that you could go out onto this little patio. And above that door, there was a window really, really high up. But you could look out through the window when you were lying on the bed. And so when we walked in, we looked around and there was this really, really nice painting above the couch. And the room looked really cute and modern. But on the patio door, we noticed there were 2 flies. And they were ugly-looking big black flies, but they were very slow, so they were easy to kill. Now, generally, I don't really do well with insects. So had I not studied to be a physiotherapist, I guarantee you I wouldn't have been an entomologist. I could have been something else, but definitely not an entomologist. So anyway, we got rid of the 2 flies, and I looked around because I'm very careful, make sure that there are no other insects in the room. And that went well. We went upstairs, started unpacking, and I looked downstairs and I see another 2 flies. And I thought, I have no idea where these flies came from. So I did the right thing, sent my husband downstairs, told him you better kill the flies, which he did.
That's his whole job?
That's his job. And then I told him that we will be going to the closest convenience store and we will be buying some fly and bug spray, which he said, okay, because I don't think he wants to keep going down the stairs. And we killed these 2 flies and I thought, all right, now they're gone.
Like that's the end of it.
That's the end of it. And I look up on the window that's high up and there's another fly. And I thought, no, we're not doing this. We're leaving right now to go get the bug spray.
Were there any windows that were open?
The windows were not open. And in fact, the window that was high up wasn't a window that you could open. It wasn't a window that you could access very easily. It had a blind so that the light doesn't come in the morning, but the blind had one of these long, long strings that you could pull to open or close it.
Okay.
Anyway, so we left and we went to go buy the bug spray. And when we got back, I climbed upstairs, got to the loft, hung over the balcony of the loft, one arm in the air, one leg in the air, and sprayed my spray as close as I could get to the window, which was still a bit of a distance away. I would have said I probably was at least 2 meters away, but I felt if I spray forcefully enough, I'm going to get the one fly that's on the window. And it looked to me like I got the fly. I saw this fly buzzing around and start heading towards the lower levels, and I thought, okay, I've got this fly. And came downstairs a few minutes later, and there were 3 dead flies. And I thought, no, what is happening? I only saw one. And the whole fly story was getting creepy. Anyway, to cut a long story short, we eventually killed all the flies that were in the room and we didn't get any more. But it immediately took me back to another time when George and I had gone on a nice holiday in South Africa and checked into a hotel.
That sounds like a very ominous introduction, Mom.
It does, and I think ominous is exactly what this story needs to be introduced. So George and I were going on this really, really nice holiday to the KwaZulu-Natal province of South Africa. And we were going to a beautiful hotel. And he said to me, I'm really going to spoil you this time. And we were going to check into this 5-star hotel. We checked into this lodge, which was absolutely stunning with a view of the sea. And the rooms were beautiful.
Ooh, fancy.
Fancy and very romantic, actually, because the way this room was set out, a little bit odd, but I think very romantic, it had this giant bathtub in the middle of the room. And it really, really looked good. I think it had a little place on the side of the bathtub where you could put your glass of champagne. And this bathtub was huge. It was perfect for doing one of those things of petals in the bath and little candles on the outside. And the bed was this very fancy mahogany wood 4-poster bed. It was the perfect hotel room for a weekend getaway.
Sounds very luxurious.
Very, very luxurious. Now, there's one big difference between George and I. George is organized and I'm less organized. I have ADD and George is the exact opposite of ADD. Everything he does is goal-oriented and focused and
efficient.
And I'm just a little bit less efficient than George.
Go with the flow.
Exactly. And so when we checked into this hotel and we got to our hotel room, what does George do? First thing he does is he'll open up his suitcase, take everything out and unpack everything. And within 5 minutes, he's unpacked everything. His clothes are color-coded in the cupboard, and I'm still trying to figure out what I shoved in at the bottom of my suitcase and have I mixed my makeup together with my shampoo and my hair stuff. And I look at the suitcase of mine and I generally think, well, it can wait. I'll unpack later. Why don't I just live out of the suitcase for a bit and unpack as we go along? So we decided to take a nice romantic bath together. And it was really nice. And we even had the TV on in the background and I was watching something. Great fun. And George was getting a bit tired because to get to this particular hotel, we had been driving for approximately 6 hours and he was driving. So he said he would really, really like to lie down. And he said he was that tired that he didn't feel like going out for dinner that night. He said, can't we just order something? And we immed and ahed for a while, and we both really, really felt like pizza. So we thought, that's okay. I was more than happy to lie on the bed, relax, and eat some pizza while watching TV. So that's what we did. And if I remember clearly, because a lot of things about this weekend getaway stuck with me, I must have been on pizza slice number 2.
Like Chanel number 5.
I wish. Not quite. But I was watching TV as well. And out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something. You know, like when you see something scurrying across the room or you see something moving. And I was absolutely convinced that I had seen something on the curtains.
Oh, no. Okay.
And the curtains were closed because we had been taking this bath and we thought we were probably going to fall asleep straight after eating the pizza. I still wasn't unpacked, by the way. And I turned to look at the curtains, but I couldn't really see anything. So I thought, well, I must have imagined it. And a couple of seconds later, I had the same feeling that I saw something moving out of the corner of my eye, which at least says I've got really good peripheral vision. But I then looked again and I noticed this tiny, tiny little black beetle on the curtains.
Oh, no. Okay. Ew.
It looked like a miniature ladybird. And I think, you know, ladybirds don't really bother anyone. And one little ladybird, even though it was black, completely black, on your curtains means nothing. So I didn't pay much attention.
Yeah, okay.
I carried on watching and I had this sensation again. And I look at the curtains and now there are about 3 of these little beetles on the curtains. And I turned to George and said, listen, babes, have you seen that we've got some beetles on the curtains? And as George turns, we realize there are about 10 of the beetles. And unfortunately for me, not of the singing type, but of the 6-legged type.
Oh, thanks for clarifying.
And the weirdest thing happened. I would look away and look back at the curtains, and these beetles would multiply. So we started off with 10. There then were 20 of them, then 40, then 50. Then I turned round to look at the curtains, and the entire curtain, or both curtains, were completely black. They were white to start off with, and they were completely black, and you could see the whole curtain moving. It was really, really creepy, really creepy. I didn't even finish pizza slice number 2. I put it back in the box, closed the box, and I said, something needs to be done.
Like, do you even know where they were coming from?
I have absolutely no idea, and I was too scared to even go there. The whole curtain had become this 3D black moving. It was really, really creepy.
Oh no, that's awful, Mom.
So we called hotel reception and we told them what had happened, and they came up. They were equally horrified. Apparently, now I've discovered that those little beetles are called something like carpet bugs, and they are very specific beetles that feed off clothes fibers. And it's really, really bad to have them anywhere near your clothes. They will eat through fibers and destroy everything. And lucky for me, I hadn't unpacked anything. So when hotel reception came and saw this, they promised us they would move us to another room and they would upgrade us a better room because they were really shocked that we had to deal with this thing. And George now had to repack all his clothes back into his suitcase, and he was very annoyed. I was so glad that my disorganization had paid off for once in my life.
Well, at least it can't get worse, right? Like now you're in a better hotel room, you're free from the bugs, like you're fine.
Well, that's what I thought. But no such luck. We get to the other room, and it was an upgrade this time. I think the bathtub was even bigger, if this could be possible. The bed was fancier. The whole room was bigger. And George began his usual process. He unpacked everything again within a couple of minutes. And I thought, I am not unpacking at this hotel at all. I'm going to enjoy the hotel. I was a bit queasy and wasn't even sure if I wanted to eat pizza after the last experience. And I tried to calm myself down and tell myself that, listen, okay, it was a once-off experience and this will never happen again. So we sit down to watch TV. We were lying down on the bed again. I think my heart rate wasn't quite as low as it had been in the previous room. And I was already a little bit on edge. And out of the corner of my eye, I see something move.
Not again.
And I thought, not again. And I told myself, you know what, Leah, it's just PTSD.
Yeah, maybe your brain was just playing tricks on you after being so hyped up from the previous experience with the bugs.
That's what I thought, Jo. But this particular movement wasn't the same scurrying movement. There was suddenly a jump.
Oh, no, that's like the worst kind of thing you can have, except for flying.
You couldn't miss this jump. It was this jump, and it wasn't an elegant jump. It was a very clunky, clumsy, horrible jump.
Oh, that's scary.
Really scary, but it gets worse. Because I sent George to investigate. I actually was not going to get off the bed.
Poor George, who only wanted to sleep at this point.
Poor George only wanted to sleep. He had unpacked twice. The second time he unpacked, I don't even think he color coordinated his stuff. He just put everything in the cupboard. And I sent him to investigate. And I thought this would be a simple investigation, but it wasn't. There was a lot of screaming. There was a lot of jumping. I couldn't tell who was jumping, George or the insect. There was a lot going on in the room. It might have been me screaming. I don't even remember. But
Probably.
This was very, very traumatic, very traumatic. And I realized that the creature that George was chasing was a creature that never dies. It's one of the most difficult insects to kill. And it's actually one of South Africa's specialities or special horror insects. And it's called a parktown prawn, or better known by its common name, the red devil. Now, I do not know of any human being that has lived in South Africa who doesn't have a story to tell about these creatures. They are disgusting.
They're awful. I think the best way to describe it for someone who's had the pleasure and the benefit of never having an experience with one, is that they're like these massive cockroaches, but worse than cockroaches.
Apparently, sorry to interrupt you, Jo, they're not cockroaches, they're crickets.
They're crickets that look like a humongous cockroach, brown and ugly and crunchy, and they literally just appear out of nowhere and they hide in crevices in your house, and they don't die. Nothing kills them. You can spray bug spray. You can hit them with a shoe. You can trap them with no oxygen in like a container of Tupperware. They will not die. They will probably outlive us all if there's ever a nuclear explosion.
No, I think they could definitely survive nuclear explosion. They've also got these massive back legs that stick out sideways from their body, and they can jump, and they do jump. So I couldn't tell who was jumping, whether it was George or the Parktown prawn. They can apparently jump. I wasn't checking how high this thing was jumping, but they can jump to a meter. And when they get stressed out, they don't jump up or jump backwards or jump sideways. They tend to jump directly at whatever is stressing them out, which causes more screaming and more stress and more jumping by everyone in the room.
They're like the spawn of Satan. They're awful creatures. The only reason they exist is to feed hardy-dove birds in South Africa. I'm convinced. I don't know what other purpose they could possibly serve, except to scare you and traumatize you for the rest of your life.
I think so. I mean, they're what horror movies are made of. They've also got these black beady eyes, and they've got these long antennae. And when I say these creatures are big, I actually had to look it up because I am prone to exaggeration. I've been told on numerous occasions. But apparently, if you take into account the creature and its back legs and its antennae, it can actually end up being the size of a smartphone.
And if you think that the jumping and the size are bad enough, and it gets worse, because when you try to do anything to them that will like hurt them in any way, they start to spray and like this liquid that's black and start to smell and just creepy. It looks like out of a horror movie. Like you think, how could anyone have come up with this? How is this creature a real creature? Well, it is.
Yes, absolutely, Jo. They spray this. Apparently, I had to Google it, and I was a bit horrified. Apparently, it is fecal matter. So it smells like a combination of fertilizer and ammonia, and it stains. Any porous surface, it will go into and stain. And when these creatures get stressed, like when you're trying to get them out of your habitat or out of your hotel room, they spray this stuff, and it's fecal matter. It's dark and black, and they also make this weird hissing sound. So I don't know what was happening in the room, but there was this major commotion. I was on the bed just screaming.
I would be screaming too.
I think I was stressing George out more than what this creature was, but I can't tell for sure. I mean, he's a man. He has to not admit to these things. It was awful. It was literally a fight to the death. And this thing has got this exoskeleton that would make Gladiator be proud. The kind of armor it has, and it's this orangey black striped. You guys have no idea. You've got absolutely no idea.
They've got a look only entomologists could love.
Absolutely, and we've discussed this already. I'm no entomologist. And I have to admit here, and I'm now proudly saying it, George, I'm still so proud of you. He managed to kill it. He killed it, and he came back to the bed triumphantly. By this point, this poor man was absolutely exhausted. He's unpacked his clothes twice. He's been driving all day. We haven't eaten enough pizza, and we're just completely stressed out. And he lies on the bed, collapses, and I see something moving again.
Oh no, not again.
There was a second one.
A second one?
A second one in this hotel room. And I said to George, call reception right now, and we're moving. And he said, I'll handle it. And we had a repeat. There was more screaming and shouting, and I was screaming. And eventually George said to me, listen, calm down. I've killed it, and we're all okay. What he didn't tell me is that later on that evening, when he got up to wee, he saw a third one and a fourth one. And he just didn't tell me because he didn't want to move rooms again.
Is he sure that he killed them and those aren't the first two?
You know, you might have a point there, Jo. You might have a point there because these creatures are totally indestructible.
Like you have to concoct special formulas to try kill them. It's weird.
Yes, I've heard apparently one of the things you can do, which I only found out now. At the time, I didn't know. Not that I would go do this because you've got to go right up to the creature. Apparently, if you cover it in shaving foam or in dishwashing liquid, and you can also kill it with a can of bug spray if you use the whole can of bug spray, and then when you've finished, use what's left in the can to knock it repeatedly. And you could hit it about 10 times, and then it might die. But you are going to have a bit of a mess. The black stuff oozes out.
Oh, it's just disgusting.
I also remember years ago when we were first building a swimming pool in our home in Lombardy East. And the pool, they had done the Marbolite and the pool was ready, but it wasn't yet ready for us to fill with water. And the bottom of the pool had about 3 of these. And it was very difficult for us to stop the dogs from going in. And I remember our boxer went in and confronted one of these and left looking like a bulldog. Her whole
Shame.
face was swollen because apparently they're not
They're not
poisonous.
poisonous, yes, but they bite.
They bite. And obviously they bit her and she might have been allergic. It caused some kind of a reaction. I even have the most horrendous story of a friend of mine who was, because these creatures hide in the weirdest places, who kept harassing her child to put on their shoe. And the child was complaining that the shoe doesn't fit. And the mom said, stop being ridiculous. If the left shoe fits, then the right shoe fits. And they were in the car and she forced her child to put their foot into the shoe, telling the child to stop being ridiculous. And when they took the child's foot out, it was covered in this black stuff.
Ew, ew, ew. That's
Somehow
awful.
the child's foot had managed to suffocate. I don't know, all moms living in South Africa need to take heed, and the rest of the moms living elsewhere just need to be grateful that you don't have to deal with this monstrosity.
Count your blessings.
There was one other occasion where by this stage I was much older. Joe and Tina must have been about 5 and 7 at the time, and I encountered one of these in my home. And I had tiles on the floor, so I knew it couldn't stain. And what someone had suggested is that you take a bowl of sorts. And I had this big plastic bowl that we used to use for washing, and it was fairly heavy, but it wasn't transparent. It was white. And I put it over the creature, and all I could hear was this bowl being shifted around. It couldn't get out, but it managed to shift this bowl around as it was jumping frantically in there. And I think it must have stressed itself to death. I think I'd also sprayed some bug spray inside the bowl beforehand, hoping that, I don't know, I would suffocate it, I would do something. And it must have stressed itself out so much that it eventually died. And when I got to it a couple of hours later, because I was too scared, and it took all my willpower to lift this bowl off the floor, there was a perfect round black circle where the bowl had been.
Ew. That's awful.
Really, really awful.
I mean, I do feel bad a little bit to discuss like killing a creature that's on, one
I
of
don't
Earth's
feel bad
creatures.
killing that creature at all.
But they're so awful and they're so traumatizing.
Yeah, my problem is not killing the creature. My problem is how to kill the creature because they just don't die. They don't die.
Yeah, they'll outlive us all.
And George, my hero, I have respect for you that is never ending because you managed to kill 2 of those in one night.
At least we think.
Yes, and the fact that you didn't mention the other 2 is probably legal grounds for divorce in South Africa. And I'm putting that out there.
On that note, what are some of the life lessons that we can take away from this story?
Well, the first one that I'm going to put out there because it applies to me is sometimes being disorganized is not such a bad thing. Also, I would say that being ADD has some positives. We need to look for the silver lining. And lastly, I would say survey your surroundings very carefully before you unpack your clothes, even if it's a 5-star hotel.
I think that's awesome, good, sound advice. And what are we grateful for?
Well, I think the first most important thing is I'm so grateful that George and I survived to tell the tale. I'm really grateful for those flies in the Peloponnese hotel room that died so easily.
I'm grateful you guys weren't bitten by the parktown prawns.
Me too. In fact, I'm grateful that I live in Greece now. South Africa is an amazing country, but these Parktown prawns are a force to be reckoned with. Lastly, I would say that after all these years, I'm still grateful that George wants to impress me by going out there and being the man and killing the bugs. So thanks, George. I love you.
Aw, that's so sweet. I think that's a good place to end the episode this week.
Yes, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope we didn't creep you out too much.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe on whatever platform that you're listening to us on. It really helps us out. We're almost at 50 subscribers, which is very exciting.
We are truly excited, guys. Thank you for the support.
Remember to also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where we post updates and also fun throwbacks that link to our previous stories. And on that note,
Bye.
bye.